In the summer of 2015, America was shaken by a rather strange and unlikely murder. The victim was Claudine Blanchard, known to her friends as Dee Dee. Only 48 years old at the time of her death, she was universally loved and known as a devoted person who loved her child to no end. Because of her child, she was often on television, and America heard about her on various news programs. Dee Dee made the whole world believe that her daughter Gypsy-Rose was suffering from a variety of illnesses, and in time, America came to love her and her self-sacrificing mother. They became celebrities and the epitome of selfless love. According to Dee Dee, her daughter suffered from a form of muscular dystrophy, which was later associated with all sorts of illnesses, including leukemia. In time, the girl was confined to a wheelchair because, according to her mother, even walking became dangerous for her. The little girl has spent most of her life in and out of hospitals, undergoing several unnecessary operations. She had to undergo painful muscle biopsies because of her muscular dystrophy, but she also received countless other treatments that she did not need. As it turned out, the many different medications her mother was feeding her every day were also causing real damage to her body. For example, over time she lost her teeth completely. As they recalled, many people claimed that Gypsy-Rose's consciousness was often not completely clear, but of course everyone attributed this to one of her illnesses. Gypsy's height of 150 centimeters, her gap-toothed mouth, and her very high, thin voice made everyone believe that she was seriously ill. Then, on the night of the 14th of June 2015, a rather strange post appeared on their Facebook page. "That bitch is dead." The original post, by the way, can still be found on Facebook to this day, with lots of concerned and puzzled comments underneath. Among them, an even more disturbing post appeared later, which reads, "I fucking slashed that fat pig and raped their sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so fucking loud. LOL." This comment was later deleted. By this time, the neighbors had gone to Dee Dee's house, but as no one answered the door, they eventually phoned the police for help, who arrived on the scene and found Dee Dee's body frozen in blood. She was lying face down on her bed in her bedroom with several knife wounds in her back, which were several days old by then. The search for her girl was in vain, but her wheelchair and her medication remained in the house. The police and neighbors thought it was a kidnapping, but the reality was much more disturbing and gruesome. But before we go any further, I would like to ask you, if you like the content you see, to support my channel by subscribing and like the video to help it to be recommended for more people on YouTube. Thank you. So what exactly happened, and what can we know about the characters? Dee Dee Blanchard was born Claudine Petra on May 3, 1967 in Chack Bay, Louisiana. She had many siblings and lived with her family in good circumstances. Despite this, relatives recall that she stole from her family on several occasions, which they believe was due to her poor relationship with her mother. Dee Dee was employed as a nurse's aide in early adulthood, and it was around this time that she became familiar with the symptoms of illnesses. At the age of 24, she became pregnant by Rod Blanchard, then almost 18, and to save them embarrassment, they were forced to marry. They named their daughter Gypsy-Rose because Dee Dee liked the name Gypsy, and Rod was a big Guns N' Roses fan. Shortly before the birth of the daughter, Rod realized that it was a bad decision to marry so young, so the couple divorced before Gypsy was born, and the young mother went back to her family and raised her child there after the birth. Rod, however, remained in contact with his ex-wife and child. According to the man, it was around this time when Dee Dee began to make misdiagnoses, which was the beginning of the plight of the child. The baby was about 3 months old when her mother became convinced that Gypsy-Rose had a sleeping problem. She took her to hospital, where sleep monitoring and various tests did not confirm her suspicions. Over the next few years, the situation got worse, not better. Dee Dee became increasingly certain that her daughter was ill, which she believed was caused by an unspecified chromosomal abnormality. Soon after, she forced her to use a walking frame because she believed she was suffering from muscular dystrophy. Gypsy-Rose was about 7 to 8 years old when she fell off her grandfather's motorbike. She escaped the accident with only a skinned knee, but her mother said that doctors had given her a wheelchair and that she would have to use it from now on. Gypsy dropped out of primary school after the 2nd grade, and from then on she was taught at home by her mother since she had such serious illnesses. Gypsy eventually learned to read, allegedly with the help of the Harry Potter books. When Rod remarried, Dee Dee moved to her father and stepmother with her daughter. During this time, Dee Dee was arrested several times for petty crimes and once for check forgery. Later, Dee Dee's father claimed that his daughter was trying to poison her stepmother with pesticides that she put in her food, and that he was confronted about her treatment of her own sick daughter. Later, when Dee Dee was confronted by her father, she moved to Slidell with Gypsy-Rose. Her stepmother's health then returned to normal over time. In Slidell, they lived in public housing, paid their bills with Rod's child support and public assistance for Gypsy-Rose's condition. At this time, they mostly spent their lives visiting doctors and various specialists. They spent many visits to Tulane University Health Sciences Center and a children's hospital in New Orleans to treat the child's growing medical conditions, which Dee Dee said had grown to include hearing and vision problems. Despite muscle biopsies on her daughter that did not confirm her suspicions that she had muscular dystrophy, Dee Dee continued to insist on treatment. She later lied to doctors that her daughter was having seizures, and from then on, the little girl took various anticonvulsant drugs regularly. During this time, she also underwent numerous operations and regular visits to the emergency room for minor suspected illnesses. Dee Dee repeatedly falsified the medical findings, gaining the doctors' continued attention. But in 2005, they were hit with a real blow when Hurricane Katrina destroyed their home. They were temporarily moved to a shelter in Covington that was suitable for people with special needs. Dee Dee lied that all of Gypsy-Rose's hospital records and final reports were destroyed in the hurricane, including her birth certificate. On the advice of a doctor there, they finally moved to Aurora, Missouri, where they lived in a rented house. By then, Gypsy-Rose and her mother were local celebrities, and in 2007, Gypsy won the Child of the Year award, courtesy of the Oley Foundation, which supported the rights of people who were fed through feeding tubes, because even in her early 20s, Gypsy was only allowed to eat liquid formula for children through a feeding tube in her stomach, and when they left the house, she often had to breathe with an oxygen tank. This was also forced on her by her mother while she slept. In 2008, the story of a single mother and her severely disabled daughter fleeing the devastation of Hurricane Katrina received such significant local media attention that the community often came to their aid. The Habitat for Humanity Foundation also built them a house with a wheelchair ramp in North Springfield, where they eventually moved. From then on, they traveled for free, including free trips to Disneyland, a concert by American country singer Miranda Lambert, and even a backstage photo of them together. When their old car broke down, they got a new one almost for free. Rod Blanchard continued to pay monthly child support of $1,200 and regularly bought gifts for his sick daughter. They also occasionally spoke on the phone. Rod said that when his daughter turned 18, he also called her. Dee Dee asked him not to mention her age when they spoke because she thought she was still 14. The man wanted to visit his child with his second wife on several occasions, but Dee Dee always found an excuse not to do so. She lied to the neighbors that her ex-husband was a violent drug addict and alcoholic who did not even pay child support. Dee Dee often physically abused her daughter, forcing her will on her, and in the presence of others she would always hold her hand so that if she dared to say anything that would expose them, she would squeeze it. But when they were alone, however, Dee Dee struck her more than once with a clothes hanger or her bare hand. The medical interventions continued, at which time the girl's salivary glands were removed because her mother complained to the doctors of constant drooling. Later, the girl said that it was actually her mother who had caused this by using local anesthetic to deceive the doctors. The lack of salivary glands also ended up completely destroying most of Gypsy's front teeth, most of which were eventually pulled out. Tubes were implanted in her ears to monitor her alleged ear infections. In all those years, only one of the countless doctors suspected that something was wrong. Bernardo Flasterstein, a pediatric neurologist, ordered an MRI and blood tests, but these showed no abnormalities, and he could not understand why the child was not walking on her own feet. After Dee Dee claimed that all previous findings had been lost in the hurricane, the doctor contacted his colleagues in New Orleans, and they confirmed that Gypsy did indeed not have muscular dystrophy. It was then that he suspected that the woman might be suffering from Munchausen syndrome. We will come back to this later. When Dee Dee felt that she might be exposed, she broke off all contact with the doctor and kept Gypsy away from him. The doctor, however, would not let the matter rest, but fearing that because the former doctors had taken the woman's side and they would not believe him, he filed an anonymous complaint against her in 2009, telling the authorities that the mother had lied to him about various names and false birth dates, and that in fact her daughter was not as ill as she claimed. The officers who subsequently carried out the check eventually accepted Dee Dee's argument that the change of details was necessary to make it harder for her ex-husband to find them. The officers did not speak to the father, Rod, but they did say that Gypsy did indeed look mentally handicapped, so the case was simply closed. It was later revealed that the woman had indeed falsified her daughter's date of birth at least once, changing it from 1991 to 1995, confirming Gypsy's belief that she was indeed a teenager and that she had been unsure of her own age for 15 years. The first time she felt something was wrong was when she found a copy of her birth certificate, which she thought had been lost, with the 1991 date on it. When she asked her mother about it, she said it must have been a typo. The girl's first escape attempt was in 2011. At a sci-fi con festival, she met a man older than her, with whom she secretly arranged to meet online. Her mother found them in a hotel room and threatened to report the man to the police because her daughter was underage. When they got home, Dee Dee smashed her daughter's laptop with a hammer and told her she would do the same to her fingers if she tried to escape again. She then kept Gypsy handcuffed to her bed for 2 weeks. Afterwards, the mother told her daughter that she had filed papers with the authorities stating that Gypsy was mentally handicapped. The daughter then did not dare to go to the police for help because she thought no one would believe her. Around 2012, Gypsy secretly continued to use the internet after her mother fell asleep and registered on an online dating site where she met a boy older than her, Nicholas Godejohn, with whom she had been in a relationship exclusively online for more than 2 years without any face-to-face contact. They got to know each other more and more as they chatted. The boy told the girl that he actually had 2 personalities, and the girl gradually revealed her sad life to him. In 2015, they agreed to finally meet. She used money she had stolen from her mother, which was a donation from the community, to pay the boy's travel expenses so that they could meet secretly at a cinema where she went with her mother. The plan was to meet by chance so that they could have a public relationship. They made love in the cinema bathroom on the very first occasion. In June 2015, Nick traveled to Springfield again, and on the night of June 9th, after Gypsy's mother had fallen asleep, she led him into the apartment. She gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife. Gypsy hid in the bathroom and covered her ears to avoid hearing her mother's screams. When Nick snuck into Dee Dee's room, she woke up. The boy finally stabbed her 17 times in the back after a fight. The girl later said it was more horrific than she had expected. After committing the murder, they made love in her room. Then, after scrounging up $4,000 in cash that her mother kept at home, they fled to a nearby motel where they stayed for a few days. They were also caught on several security cameras during this time. Gypsy then thought they had got away with the crime. They packed the murder weapon and posted it to Nick's home in Wisconsin, and then boarded a bus themselves to travel there. Later, several witnesses confirmed that the girl was wearing a blonde wig and did not need any assistance to walk. Although neighbors were shocked by the incident, most were worried about what would happen to the girl without her mother, her medication, her wheelchair, and various aids. Aaliyah Woodmansee, a neighbor girl with whom gypsy-rose was close, told the police about her secret Facebook page and that Gypsy had met a boy online. Then the police asked Facebook for the IP address from which the disturbing post, seen at the beginning of the video, was posted. It soon became clear that the post was made from Wisconsin, from the home of the boy and his parents. The next day, local police arrested Gypsy-Rose and Nick, who immediately surrendered. At the time, the public was not yet aware of their involvement in the murder, so the Blanchards' neighbors were delighted to hear that the girl was safe and well. Sheriff Jim Arnott said at a press conference regarding the ongoing investigation, "Things are not always what they seem." Soon, however, everyone learned the truth. Gypsy Rose was never sick and could always walk. She was just being used by her mother to get people's sympathy. She kept her in physical terror and dominated her. The day after their arrest, the prosecution asked for life imprisonment or death penalty. But as the trials gradually revealed how Dee Dee had behaved with her daughter, the community's sympathy for the mother quickly turned to Gypsy Rose as a long-term victim of child abuse. According to Gypsy's lawyer, the girl was so malnourished that she gained 6.5 kilograms while in detention, whereas in such situations, defendants tend to lose weight. In July 2015, the girl was finally offered a plea bargain, under which she admitted to inciting the murder. Gypsy Rose agreed to this, in exchange for which she was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Nicholas was eventually subjected to a series of psychiatric tests, which revealed that he had an IQ of 82 on the autism spectrum. Finally, after a long series of trials, Nick was sentenced to life imprisonment in February 2019. Dee Dee's family felt no pain at all at the loss of their family member. As they put it, Dee Dee deserved her fate. They also stated that they refused to pay for the funeral, so eventually the deceased was cremated and the ashes were allegedly flushed down the toilet by her father and stepmother. Dee Dee's ex-husband, Gypsy's father, was less dismissive, saying that his ex-wife's problem was that she had started telling lies from which there was no escape. The first time he saw his daughter walk on her own feet, he felt incredibly happy. Dee Dee was eventually found to have been suffering from Munchausen syndrome. This elusive disease was named after Baron Munchausen, who could tell a story and lie about anything so vividly that he fooled everyone around him. Patients suffering from Munchausen syndrome do nothing but make up believable stories about illnesses and symptoms just to get medical attention. It is important to distinguish them from hypochondriacs and malingerers. The latter are always hoping for some kind of benefit from pretending to be sick, such as a financial benefit, free days in job, etc. Munchausen sufferers are never motivated by such things. They just want attention and care. People with Munchausen syndrome are capable of doing extreme things to achieve their goals. They are often not afraid to manipulate laboratory results or fever test results. They mix sugar or blood in their urine to make it look like diabetes or kidney disease. They may also induce symptoms by taking various drugs. They also resort to self-mutilation in order to look authentic. They may cut their skin to complain of a skin disease or swallow poison to damage their internal organs. They are always very prepared for a particular disease, so they know what a doctor needs to hear to make a diagnosis. They are often more familiar than average with medical terminology. There is another form of Munchausen syndrome. In this case, the person with the disease does not cause symptoms to themselves, but to another person, most often a mother to her child. In such cases, the mother is seen by her environment as a model parent who is extremely attached to her child. The sick person's environment has no idea of what is going on between mother and child, only that the mother is steadfastly calm about her child's illness and the problems it causes. What often strikes medical staff is that the child's condition usually worsens in the mother's presence or immediately afterwards. Whether the patient is self-inflicting symptoms or making others ill, these people are certainly psychologically damaged. Gypsy Rose served a 10-year sentence at Chillicothe Correctional Center and was released on December 28, 2023, after serving 85% of her sentence. Regarding this, she only said that she already regretted what she had done. She regretted that her mother was dead, because it would have been a much greater punishment for her to have been imprisoned the same way as she was imprisoned in the prison her mother had set up for her. However, she added, "I feel freer in prison than living with my mother, because now I can live like a normal woman." Well, that was the sad story of Gypsy Rose. If you are interested in this topic, I also recommend the 8-part drama series, The Act. Also, a documentary film about the crime called Mommy Dead and Dearest, which lasts almost an hour and a half. Don't forget to check out my previous videos because you're sure to find something you like, or subscribe to my channel to be notified of upcoming videos. Thank you very much for your attention. I will be back soon with the next video.